welcome to the movie Changeup podcast. This is our Disney Plus weekly review for the week of July 31st, 2021. If you haven't watched this series before, each week we kind of recap what has debuted on Disney Plus. We might talk about an episode of a show or a series as a whole, or just kind of, general maybe docu-series or other things that have popped up. Usually if it's a show that has like a big dump, we just talk about the first couple episodes. Forgot to introduce myself. My name is Joe Fricke, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Tristan Mayer. I thought this was an adequate week for Disney Plus. Nothing big dropped really, other than just kind of its typical episodes. Tristan, what were your kind of general thoughts on Disney Plus this week?
Yeah, I missed some of the stuff I normally watch. I'm not gonna lie, but I did go to a couple of surprises, things I didn't expect to watch, and ended up liking them a bit more than I thought I would. So it was kind of an off week for me. I decided, since I didn't get back in time to watch The Bad Batch. Sorry to spoil that for you guys, but Joe will have to guide me through The Bad Batch here. But I instead spent that time watching Jungle Cruise, so I'm excited to talk about that. The latest hybrid release of Disney in theaters. So I can give you guys a preview of Jungle Cruise, and I also caught up on a couple of the shows we previewed last week, so I'll catch you guys up on Mysterious Benedict Society. I also caught up on Monsters at Work.
All right, yeah. So we'll have a number of shows to talk about. I didn't really know what all Tristan had watched, so we talked a little bit, but he sprung these surprises on me. I would have put Jungle Cruise on the side, well, if I knew that was an option, but we can start with our normal starting point, which is the big show on Disney Plus, which for me right now I assume is The Bad Batch. This episode is episode 14 of season 1. It was called War Mantle. Usually for this situation, I normally rely on Tristan's notes, and I didn't realize he hadn't watched the show, and that's how prepared we are. So I'm going to have to be the one that runs you through this. It was a really fun episode. We have another returning character again.
Oh my.
Which me and Tristan have, kind of joked about before, how every episode seems to have a returning character. But this one I was really into. It was Gregor, who we saw pal around with Rex in the Clone Wars, and kind of the general premise of this episode, and it starts with a E.T. type opening, is Gregor has escaped an Imperial facility and is on the run, and he had contacted Rex, who was a little preoccupied, so Rex contacted the Bad Batch to go and rescue Gregor from an Imperial facility. And it's a really kind of fun action episode. Me and Tristan have been talking that hopefully the last kind of 3 episodes are this big finale, and it's what we've been building towards, and that's definitely what it feels like. I definitely think, based on kind of the ending of this episode, that these last 3, War Mantle and whatever the next 2 episodes are, all are kind of like one big arc. It's a really kind of story-based episode, definitely not a filler episode.
Good to know that, because I was wondering if it was going to be one that I would just end up waiting until next week. Well, that would be my question. Would you recommend watching this now, or would you recommend saying, oh wait, if you missed it, you might as well wait and do a double feature next week? If it's going to be a 2-parter, should I just wait and do a double feature?
No, I think because I don't want to spoil it, but there are some things, I don't know how much you see on like Star Wars Twitter or Reddit or anything, that you might not want spoiled, so I would say to watch it. But we get a little bit more about the Kaminoan arc, and it makes me think maybe we do get the Kaminoan Rebellion this episode. I don't know if there's that much time left, but maybe because we opened with like a 70-minute episode for the first episode, I wouldn't be completely shocked if the final episode was a bit longer, maybe not 70 minutes, but like maybe a 45-minute episode.
I'd be curious, because I did wonder after they had that clone rebellion, that mini clone rebellion last week. I was wondering if, well, that wasn't last week. It was that last time there was actually a good episode of The Bad Batch. It was when they had that mini clone rebellion. So I wondered maybe if they're going to be going along faster than we thought. So I'm excited to see that they're maybe going to be faster along that Kaminoan plot than we expected.
Yeah, and this episode, I will say, ends with a cliffhanger, and I'm very curious to see how that ends up. And we do see our boy Crosshair again. So, and we're seeing, we also see kind of the very initial stormtroopers, and we basically, this episode, if you want to talk like the bigger realm of Star Wars and the Star Wars like tapestry as a whole, we're kind of seeing the origins of the stormtroopers. Like there is a moment where they see a designation on a screen and a TK, and Tech is kind of confused. He's like, I've never seen a TK designation before, which is kind of the original designation of stormtroopers.
It's interesting. I do like that because this show is definitely diving into that origin story of the Empire, similarly to how it seems that Mandalorian is sort of getting into origin story of the First Order slowly but surely. So it'll be. I mean, obviously the Empire's already taken over, but I think we're seeing like the way that the truth of the Empire is taking over. I guess I don't know. It's interesting to see the building of the Stormtrooper, the building up of what we know of the legacy of the Empire, slowly but surely becoming the New Hope Star Wars Empire.
Yeah, it's definitely what it's building up to. It's again, if you're a fan of Star Wars, I would say no, like we've said a million times. If you're a fan of Star Wars, watch Clone Wars. If you enjoyed Clone Wars, watch Rebels. If you enjoyed Rebels, watch Bad Batch. That would be my recommendation to people as far as the Bad Batch goes. I feel like Bad Batch is enjoyable, I guess, for the most part, if just knowing the movies, but it's so much better, I think, if you're familiar with the other animated shows.
I wonder what people will think of this when they go back and binge through the entire season from the start. We're getting into the final arc here, so I'm gonna wonder if this does really wrap it up and make it great. How much we're gonna forget about the couple missteps here and there, like the one filler episode, the couple things that didn't go right, maybe some questions left unanswered. But if we're satisfied by the end, it'll be a good premiere season. Maybe when to go back and binge over again on a whole Star Wars canon watch through.
Exactly, I was about to say I'll be able to tell you what it's like in a binge in a couple months here when I finish it during my canon binge watch. But I gotta get through all of the Clone Wars first, so.
Good luck with that. Some of that stuff, animation wise, not aging too well.
It's gonna be rough when I go from like this Bad Batch, which is like high quality premiere. Like you can get a different style of animation, but you can't really get better animation right now. And then jump to like season 1 of Clone Wars animation. It's gonna be.
Yeah, it's like when you're doing a Star Wars rewatch and you go from Rogue One with this really big, huge action scenes, and next is like, oh, here's Luke walking around desert for 40 minutes, and you're like, wow, that's a shift in tone there.
Yeah, definitely. So you ready to move on to High School Musical, the series?
I'm ready for that. I definitely watched through that.
I will say before we start, when we decided to move this show from strictly a Bad Batch review, because we were talking, okay, like, do we do a Bad Batch review and a Loki review? Do we want to do them together? And I think it was me came up with the idea of, oh, let's just do a Disney Plus review, or we'll just review what's ever on Disney Plus. And like I knew, kind of when it premiered, they had The Mandalorian, but High School the musical, the series was also kind of like one of their bigger shows they marketed. I haven't watched it. I saw the original movies. I actually don't think I saw 3, but I saw the first 2 movies, and I was like, I'm not gonna care about this show. And I was like, okay, Tristan watched it, he enjoyed it, so what we're gonna do is Tristan's gonna watch it and talk about how much he likes it, enjoys it, and I'm gonna be the one that sits here and fucking shits all over it. And I hate how much I didn't hate this show.
I'm not sure if you may be going in more positive than me at this point.
Season 1 was really good. Season 2 was okay. I think season 2 is not as good as season 1, but I think my main problem with it is I thought the whole show was like a musical, and there are musical moments of the show, but it's usually more like internal monologues, like their own thoughts vocalized through songs, and it's not like these big, huge, like, because that always takes me out of the movie. Like, how do these people all know the lyrics to this song that they're actively writing as they sing it? And I'll know the dance for the first time. That always takes me out. But here it's more like anytime there's like a musical moment, it's like one person slowly walking through a hallway as like basically they're singing as music kind of plays over them.
I do want to warn you real quick. I started getting some feedback from your microphone as you started talking there, so I'm getting some intense static on your end.
Okay, I don't know what's up with that. I don't know. I'll see if I can. Oh, and my mic. Okay. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Hopefully it's not on the stream version. Hopefully it's a StreamYard thing.
Yeah, we'll see. We could always do some audio correction. We're professionals.
Yeah. Oh well. So what were your thoughts on High School Musical, the series?
Yeah, I went into it saying, okay, I have nostalgia for the movies, I guess. You know, like I watched them a lot when I was a kid. My brother was especially into them, so I remember him being really excited. We went on vacation the week that High School Musical 2 came out, so we had to make sure we scheduled our entire family vacation around the fact that me and him were there in front of the TV at like 6 p.m. Central, whatever it was, when High School Musical 2 aired on Disney Channel. So it's kind of like a weird foundational memory of a kid watching those two movies, but it wasn't one that stuck with me at all. So I went to this series like, okay, whatever, a High School Musical show. It's going to be the same plot repeated over, the same beats, the same thing, just kind of different, what they've been doing for a lot of these Disney remakes. But it was definitely not that. And they used the original movie's themes and kind of settings and tropes in certain ways, but it's not a repeat of the original movie. And like Joe said, it's not a genuine sung through musical. It's one that's there's spoken word throughout, and then when they're performing, they perform the songs. It's like a dream sequence where they perform an actual musical number, which for me is probably my favorite of all the musical numbers, because it's not an actual performance of a musical number. But yeah, it's a good time, a shockingly good time, I would say, more than I ever expected it to be. A lot of heart, and of course, Olivia Rodrigo, the heart of pop music, is the heart of the show. So we got
In
to mention
season
her
one.
too.
In season
In
two,
season
they
one.
kind of. I was looking in the behind the scenes. It kind of makes sense because I think they, basically because of outside reasons, had to abandon her entire storyline. Do you know what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the songs, Joe. I listened to the album. I've heard the
No,
story
no, no. There was
through
some
the course
more
of music.
real life. In season two, she goes away to this like performing arts school, and she has this roommate who her roommate was like this. The school was like somewhat cultish in a way, I guess, of like they had these very strict rules and stuff, and then they started to have this storyline of a roommate who was very much about the rules, and Olivia Rodrigo's character Nini was like starting to break her away from the rules and show her like this is art, this is performing, it's supposed to be about fun. And then they took a break from filming. I don't know if it was COVID reasons or like any kind of holiday break, but her the actress that played her roommate died in a car accident. So
Jeez, wow.
I think
My
that's
goodness.
why they came back from break, and her character was immediately like, I hate this school, I'm gonna go back home. And then she was just kind of like barely in the rest of the season. She would just pop in here and there.
Good Lord. That's terrible. That's way worse than teen drama that I was expecting it to be.
No, yeah, so I think that's partially why she just kind of didn't have anything to do in season 2, is because what they had written kind of had to be canceled. Because I think my theory of the plot line would have been like she would have came back and like brought her roommate to like her high school to be like in the play, to show her like this is what performing is supposed to be.
Yeah, and then they were like, oh, whoopsie, we don't have an arc anymore.
Yeah.
Like Rose in Rise of Skywalker, they're like, well, your scenes are with Leia, so what are we going to do?
Yeah. Exactly. Do you have a standout character that's your like favorite? Like they hop on and you're like, this is my person.
It like really comes and goes for me. I can't. It was similar to. I've been watching Ted Lasso, and weirdly it reminds me of that, where you come into the characters and initially they seem like stereotypes. You're like, oh, here's the jock guy who's gonna be like the rude, self-absorbed guy, and he kind of is that, but he's also more. And I think that was something very interesting about this show, is they introduce characters and they're like, oh, this is gonna be the bratty, like hot girl teen who's everyone's into her and she's really into herself, and she is that in a way, but they're also much more complex. And I can't remember her particular name, but she was
Gina.
It was Gina. It was Gina. It was her name. The new girlfriend of Ricky.
Yeah.
That was the one that her mom was moving away in season 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll say
I liked her a lot.
For me, it's definitely Big Red. Big Red. Anytime he's on screen, I'm like, that's my guy right there.
Big Red's a good one. I think of you when I see Big Red. He gives me Joe vibes a little bit.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be offended by that or not, because he's kind of a weird dude.
No, he's just like a little nerdy movie guy.
Yeah.
Like all of us.
I still don't buy him and Ricky being like childhood best friends. I'm like, that doesn't really make sense to me. But
no, I feel like Ricky's so much cooler than him.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, here's Big Red, the weird guy that hangs out in the basement with me.
Yeah, I also like the girl that works at the pizza shop. She's Courtney, I think. I don't know. She's fun. I feel like she's like the mom of the group. So.
And of course, it's a joy when you see Olivia Rodrigo on the screen, especially because in some scenes she's just like outperforming everyone.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow, they really found gold in this actress, and like especially time it with. I don't know how much that was orchestrated, of course, but like they had that great perfect timing of her releasing a genuinely huge hit, and then in the middle of producing the show.
Yeah.
I'd be curious what the ratings were for this.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I would say. Do you have much else to say about High School Musical, the musical, the series?
No, I'd say give it a chance, especially if you have any sort of nostalgia for the original, but don't expect it to be a bunch of references. Like
No.
it tells its own story, but it's not a bunch of innuendos and one-liners from the other things. But I think if you're looking for just a fun, easy to watch, there's drama, but it's not like you're not gonna be crying, you're not gonna be like really upset. You're just gonna be invested in the storylines beginning to end, and then kind of walk away from it feeling good. That was kind of what I felt like. I like those kind of teen escape dramas once in a while, so if you're into that kind of stuff, check it out.
Yeah, I would say if you're a fan of like what's that show, like The Secret Life of the American Teenager, all of those like late 2000s, early 2010s like teen drama ABC Family shows, then you'd probably be a fan of this, cuz this in a time before Disney Plus, this definitely would have been a big hit for like ABC Family, which is now Freeform.
Yeah, it definitely feels like an ABC Family production
Yeah.
of a show, but I like it, and it's worth checking out, especially if you have if you have daughters, like if you have a sister or something like that. I think it's very aspirational and about how women can kind of like make their own choices. They don't have to be tied to anyone other than themselves, and I like that a lot too about the show. I think Olivia's character in that is a really outspoken and independent and confident character.
Yeah, the teacher or the whatever she is, like the drama teacher or whatever, not so much. She's kind of all about she's all about the math teacher, whatever he is, and Ricky's dad,
Of course,
and
you gotta have
her like rival from the other school.
some ridiculous adult drama in the teen shows once
Yeah,
in a while.
yeah. But yeah, I would say for me, I don't know about you, but yeah, like we said, if you're a fan of those late 2000s, early 2010 freeform type shows, you'll definitely enjoy this. And I only have like a passing remembrance of the original movies. Like I said, I don't think I ever even saw the third one that was released in theaters. And I feel like I enjoyed it just as much as someone who was like, at least understood it as much as someone who would have been like a massive fan of the original trilogy of High School Musical films that watched them 100 times.
Yeah, I agree because the plot essentially of the first season is that they're producing a musical that tells the story of High School Musical. So if you haven't seen the movie High School Musical, you're gonna get like a recap of it by watching the show, essentially
Yeah.
a meta recap of it because they're gonna be
Yeah.
talking about the events and giving you some of the lines here and there. So you'll get the moments of their production of High School Musical.
All right. And anything else to add?
No, I had a good time with it.
All right, next we have episode 2 of season 1 of Turner and Hooch. This episode may be one of my favorite episodes of all time of television.
No, it couldn't have been.
I loved it. Start to finish, it tickled every funny bone of my body. It was titled A Good Day to Die Hard. Or, sorry, A Good Day to Dog Hard.
Oh,
And
come on.
slowly but surely, as you're watching the episode, Scott Turner, played by Josh Peck, basically finds himself in a Die Hard situation. But that's never referenced. He's not like, oh my god, this is Die Hard. It just has like these small Die Hard references throughout. Like, basically, the plot of the episode is the Olympic Committee is getting together with these various diplomats, and like the head of the Olympic Committee has his daughter there named Maya, or no, Kaya. Sorry, his daughter's name is Kaya, and Scott Turner is there with his dog Hooch, and eventually, like, the daughter sees him. Well, she needs police detail protection just as like a formality. There hasn't really been any threat, and so she says she wants like Hooch to be her, Turner and Hooch to be her guard, and it's like, okay, whatever. Well, then during the Olympic Committee meeting, these like guys with guns. Oh, sorry, I went too far.
Oh no, he skipped some of the plot. I need the whole Die Hard
Turner,
reference.
Kaya forces Turner and Hooch to have a tea party with them, and he spills something on his shirt, spills tea on his shirt, so he has to take his shirt off, and so he's now wearing the like white tank top. And at this point, I haven't noticed it yet because I never clicked on the episode like to see it. I just hit like play next, and then later in the episode, he steps on something and cuts his foot, and like that's when it started to click for me. And then And then, because he had the look, he cut his foot, and I'm like, oh my god, this is what they're doing. And then the terrorists or whatever, the evil people come in and like they tie up and they threaten um, the like the Olympic Committee. And Hooch or Turner's partner is pregnant, and so I was really hoping at one point she would ask for a couch for that reference from
Yep.
Die Hard, where there's a pregnant woman there and she asks for a couch, but that didn't happen. But there's some small things in there, like he makes a joke of like, "Oh, come up, have a tea party, have a few laughs," while he's like chasing down the bad guys, and then Kaya says something to him, and he's like, "Yippee, Kaya!" And I was like, "Oh my god, they wrote this show for me." And anyways, the episode ends, and a moment I was waiting so long for is Reginald Val Johnson has a cameo at the end as they're going through Scott's dad's stuff. And Reginald Val Johnson, if you didn't know, was Tom Hanks' rookie partner in the original Turner and Hooch. But obviously, he also played Sergeant Al Powell in Die Hard. And so I was hoping for him to like talk to Reginald Val Johnson and basically be like, "Oh, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today," and give like some kind of hokey thing of like, "Oh, I had to take down these terrorists and blah blah blah," and him be like, "Oh, that sounds familiar" or something. But we didn't get that moment. Like, I don't even know if they had a conversation, but they were in a room together and they wrote this episode for me, and it was amazing. And if you didn't like the first episode, you should watch Turner and Hooch, A Good Day to Dog Hard, because it was the best episode of television I have ever seen in my life.
That sounds incredible. I can't believe. At first, I thought you were making that up, and then you kept going, and I
Like,
was
okay,
like,
it's
"Wow,
hokey, it's cheesy and dumb, and probably like every episode of Game of Thrones is better than this. Every episode of Breaking Bad is better than this. But they wrote this episode for me, and that's what makes it amazing.
it's not gonna be on my watch list, Joe. That's gonna be on my Disney Plus watch list for the week. You guys, if
And
you'll keep a
honestly,
track at home, make a new watch list."
I'd be okay if they did this, where every episode of Turner and Hooch was like a take on a different like cop movie. Like the first one was obviously Turner and Hooch. The second one, Die Hard. Maybe like the third one is Lethal Weapon or something, and just each one has a dog in it, and I'm fine with that. Oh, and
I'd
they
be
did a
down to
thing
it.
with the dog because now it's like there were cameras, and it's like, how does he sneak around without the bad guy seeing him with the cameras? So he took off his shoe and he'd throw it at the camera, and if he missed, he just had Hooch bring the shoe back, and it was great.
Wow, he's using the dog creatively. I like that.
Yeah, I will say
I'm
there
surprised.
are moments where like there's like, I don't want to say evil cop, but like kind of a dick cop who like doesn't know what show he's in. I would say for the most part, this show is like aimed at like maybe like middle teenagers or just families in general. He felt like he was playing a cop in like a Disney Channel junior show. Like
Oh no,
it was weird, but he was only in like two or three scenes, so it wasn't that bad. But
I can't believe it. But I was not planning on watching any more Turner and Hooch. But I'm gonna have to check out episode 2. That sounds like a good time. I might have to get a couple of drinks in me before I do it, but it'd be perfect.
yeah, yeah, it was great. So with that being said, definitely I would say same with my review of last week. If you're kind of like those NCIS type cop shows and you have to watch them late at night because you think they're too adult for your young kids, watch Turner and Hooch. You can watch it with the whole family. That's all I have to say.
Yippee
Yippee Kaya. That's all I have to say. And the fact that her name was Kaya, and like obviously they wrote it and made her name Kaya for that one line, and I don't care. It was great. Um, but anyways, so you watched Jungle Cruise. Tell me all about Jungle Cruise.
We've been kind of roasting Jungle Cruise as this like overlong thing that just is like a bloated, put your favorite stars on the screen and a bunch of CG stuff happens kind of movie, and that's what it is. But it's exactly that. Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt are on this kind of exotic jungle mission throughout. If you've seen the trailer, I don't know how much to say. I just want to give the premise, I guess, of them going essentially on a jungle cruise. They have to get uh, throughout. They meet these tribesmen and they meet different people along their route, and it's essentially an adventure movie. The score is like an Indiana Jones style adventure score. It's a really kind of fun adventure kind of movie. They run into a lot of characters, and that's kind of the premise of it. They're going place to place, trying to go down along on this cruise, and then Emily Blunt is the woman who has to get there, and Dwayne Johnson is the guide. So they kind of just are on that adventure. I don't want to go throughout the adventure because most of the fun is like I had no idea what this was. I'd seen the trailer, but that was pretty much it. So I didn't know the kind of creatures they go to. I didn't know the kind of places they go to, the kind of people they see. That's kind of the fun of it. So if you're gonna see it blind and just know it's Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt going on a okay adventure through a CG jungle. You'll have a good time with the music, a good time with the characters, some charisma between the two. I was pretty surprised by some of the supporting cast too. I thought Jesse Plemons was pretty funny in it. And if you have a whole family, I think it's one of those kind of movies. You'll have thrills for the kids, a lot of like animals, and there's a talking animal, the giant animal in this movie. I don't want to say too much, but there's a giant animal, and the kids will like it. And then there's some good chemistry between Dwayne Johnson, the adults who like that. So it's kind of a bundle up with your family kind of movie. If you're watching Turner and Hooch and you're like, hey, let's make this go along a bit longer, throw on Jungle Cruise, hang out with your family. It's $30 on Disney Plus, but if you're going to see it, probably see it in the theater by yourself. But if you have a family, I'd say check it out here. You might as well pay it $30 and watch a good time for one night.
All right, yeah, definitely still not gonna watch it because it looks like not my thing. But yeah, if you watch the trailer and it looks interesting to you, I'm not telling you don't watch it. I'm just telling you I'm not going to. So
Yeah, look, if you watch the trailer and you were like, "This is not for me," it's probably not going to be for you. It was a bit better than the trailer makes it out to be, but it wasn't anything other than the trailer makes it out to be. You know, it's exactly what it looks like. It's just done better than I thought it was going to be, and the stars are entertaining. And we talked about blockbusters this month on movie Changeup, so it made me kind of think of it like this is one of those kind of everyday blockbusters that you might not remember in 20 years, but it's like one of those, oh, they got the stars, they put them on the screen, they had a kind of fun time together. And to me, that's kind of a cool blockbuster moment to experience. And it's one that I won't come back to at the end of the year. Like I'm going to be doing a best of the year list. We're not going to be doing Jungle Cruise on that list, but it was a fun time in the theater.
all right, anything else you want to say about Jungle Cruise?
Nope, that was it.
All right. Another thing too, we normally there's usually like one docu series or a interesting documentary that pops up on Disney Plus. I always try to look at what do they have on their banner because it's usually like what they're trying to promote or what's most watched. And the one I saw this week was Turning the Tables with Robin Roberts. So watch the first two episodes of that. It was pretty solid. Basically, it's Robin Roberts and three different women. It changes every episode. Just talking about their, they're all celebrities, talking about their careers and their lives and kind of what inspired them. And it's just like an interesting 20-25 minute conversation each episode. If you like around Oscar season, the Hollywood Reporter puts out like their roundtable things. If you like that, or if you like John Favreau's Dinner for Five, it's basically that similar type of thing. It's not really an interview. It's more just a conversation. Uh, I thought it was relatively interesting. I might go back and finish it out. But if those are kind of your vibe and those are the kind of shows you're into, I would definitely say to check them out. Tristan, did you see anything about it? Have you watched it at all?
No, I haven't even really. I've seen the title scrolling through, but I hadn't watched it all. So it's interesting. It's not what I really thought it would look like. So I'm interested to check it out.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be more of like a one-on-one Oprah Winfrey type of show, but I clicked on the first episode and I'm trying to remember who was on the first episode. They all kind of blend together. I can't really remember who. I think it was like Debbie Allen. I remember the guests that I remember her having. She had Debbie Allen on, Tig Notaro on, Melissa Etheridge on. She had Jenna Dewan on. Jenna Dewan and Debbie Allen were the same episode, and then some actress I didn't know. But yeah, just like a variety of women celebrities. Sheila E. was on an episode.
Sounds like a good. Most of these documentary shows so far on Disney Plus to me have been solid like background watches. You know, if
Yeah.
I'm putting a list together where I'm editing something or I'm
Yeah.
working on organizing my room, whatever, and I got to put something on to keep myself entertained while I'm doing it. Those are the solid ones. You look up for the cool stuff and then you listen to some of the talking and nice background watching. I think that's nice for me.
Yeah, that's how I would put it. I actually had it on while I was doing our thumbnail and our side things for this episode, so it was definitely a background watch, which is why it's hard for me to remember specifically who was on what episode. But I found it entertaining enough, if that's the kind of thing you're into, and I usually watch those type of things, so I'll probably finish it out. Probably won't necessarily review the rest of them on here because it's probably all just generally going to be the same as the first couple. Just solidly good episodes. Oh, another thing I watched that I completely forgot about until now that I just want to say really quick. I watched Chippendale Park Life. I don't know if you
Oh God.
saw that at all. Okay, let me rephrase that. I watched the first 10 minutes of Chippendale Park Life.
Oh gosh, it could have been. Was it better or worse than uh, the Turner and Hooch premiere?
It was just not for me.
Oh,
Like, so it's these silent. I mean, it's not silent. There's like music and like they make noises and like screeches and stuff, but there's no like talking. Uh, it's just like two or three or four short films an episode. It appears, and it's just like Chippendale in a park, like causing trouble, getting into trouble, what you would expect from a typical Chippendale short. But it's like this new 2D animation that Disney's been doing with a lot of their shorts that I'm not really into. I see they have like the same one for like a Mickey Mouse show that they have that I just doesn't appeal to me. I like a lot more of like the 90s kind of animation style, like Goof Troop and stuff, and like Chippendale Rescue Rangers and those that animation of those shows, which I like a lot more, partially because I just grew up on that style. But I think if you have kids that are like 10 and under, they definitely be into it and like it. So you should definitely, throw it on for them. Something, if you're like in the kitchen making food and you just want to throw something on for your kids, it's definitely like a safe choice that I'm sure they'll be into, that you don't have to worry about like, oh, is this too violent or is this, too whatever. I feel like solid show for that. Is it a solid show for a 28-year-old guy sitting in his room watching TV? Not really. But when the creators created it, were they intending for me to watch it? Also, no. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's bad. It's just not for me.
I'm glad we reviewed it on our podcast. We were definitely the intended audience.
But I also wanted to show it some love, get
No, yeah, I
word out
appreciate
about
it. I'm
people,
glad you watched it.
I watched the first 10 minutes. I watched the first short of it, and I'm like, okay, I get what this show is, and I know what to review about it, but I also recognize that it's not for me.
I think it's cool too that that kind of stuff is out there. That they're not just making stuff for like us.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here's a random 2 minute animated thing. If you want to play it
Yeah.
in the background somewhere, if you want to watch it just to see the animation. And then there's also what I saw those like we watched last week, the behind the attraction type
Yeah.
documentaries, and that to me feels almost like something you play like for a kid before they go to Disneyland. And it's like, oh, you want to get excited for Disneyland? Watch this on Disney
But,
Plus to think about the rides you're gonna go on, or maybe even something you play like at the Disney store to like get people to want to go to the theme parks.
yeah, I'm sure like Disney adults too would love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, is there anything else you watched that you want to review? I think you said something else, but
Yeah, I did watch Monsters at Work. I watched the rest of that
yeah.
so far, and then I also watched Mysterious Benedict Society. I'm not going to talk too much about either one because, like we've talked about previously, I'm not exactly the intended audience for this, although I am getting a bit more out of one than the other. I'll start with the one that I'm not super invested in, and that's Monsters at Work. I think the premiere episode was really promising. A lot of the interesting themes about like, oh, what does this go from here, and how does this society adjust, and that's still kind of there in the background. Like there's lines and there's scenes, and like some of the premises for the for the arcs are kind of involved within like how does Monsters Inc. as a company adjust like literally to this, like how do we adjust our equipment to this. And it wasn't necessarily like as societal as I thought it might be, but it might get better, but so far I'm not super invested into it, so I might just check out of it and wait and see if we hear some better news about the rest of the show. But otherwise, I'm probably out on Monsters at Work.
okay. Yeah, I might go back and binge it. It depends on how many episodes there end up being. If there's like 10 episodes, I'm like, I already watched 2. I maybe watch the other 8. If there's like 12 plus, I'm gonna be like, probably not. I never even watched Monsters University, so that's how little of invested I am in the series. So, what about the Mysterious Benedict Society?
I'm more into that than I thought I was going to be. The premise, I didn't know much about the premise, but I think the world is really interesting, and I think some of the characters are pretty entertaining. You know, they feel right out of a YA novel kind of come to life, and I think that is what they're kind of going for with the vibe here. I think it is based on a YA novel, and for me, it has that kind of feel. And I think if you are a fan of the books, I don't know how accurate they are to the feel and tone, but to me, it feels like a YA novel come to life. You have the quirky characters that are kind of larger than life, and the kids are always so much smarter than the adults are, because the kids are the heroes and the adults are just kind of the buffoons the kids can't possibly understand. And the world is also very interesting. It looks very Wes Anderson and very 1950s aesthetic to it, and there's this lingering fear about this coming threat, and these kids are recruited essentially to be secret spies. So they're put through this rigorous entrance exam for a school, but if they go and it goes from a simple test to like a physical exercise to like a mathematic exercise, or they walk into a room and it says oh, you gotta get to the other side of the room without stepping on any yellow tiles, and maybe you jump across, maybe you like swing across, maybe you try and like step on only the red tiles, and that's kind of a judgment of how is your character and how do you think. And the kids who pass become super spies essentially.
Yeah.
And they're spies undercover in this boarding school, and uh, the whole society is terrified of this great disaster that no one really wants to talk about it, but it's lingering over their heads. And there's this kind of funny shot in the early episodes where there's a billboard that says something has to change, but it's all decayed because it's been up for so long. And there's a company up painting a new billboard up, and it says the exact same thing, saying something has to change. And it's like obviously nothing has changed. So there's like a slight edge of political to it there. So I think if you're watching this as a family, there's a little bit of a conversation that might spring out of it about like, oh, what's going on in the world, and maybe how can we make things change. And essentially the kids are the ones who are trying to be the change they want to be in the world. Yeah. So if you have kids and you want to have them be kids who want to aspire to be someone good, someone who pioneers for change and doesn't sit around and act like, we can just let somebody else do the work for us. If you want to inspire kids to stand up and better the world, this could be one to help them get along that path. So I'm into it a lot more than I thought it would be.
All right. I'm curious to watch it because the trailers did absolutely nothing for me. So I might check it out if we had a dry spell in, Disney Plus shows and other shows I've been trying to get the ambition to watch. I binge watched Sexy Beasts all in one day. That's a Netflix show, but if you haven't watched that show, you fucking should, because it is amazing.
I can't stop talking about Ted Lasso myself. I watched through all that on Apple Plus. I said, oh, I'll get the 7-day trial, but there's no way I can watch it all in 7 days. And then 2 days later, I was done with it. So if you want some other streaming stuff, check that out.
Yeah, Sexy Beasts is like a throwback to like those mid-2000s MTV dating shows, and I'm about to just go back and watch it through a second time. It's phenomenal television.
That sounds exactly like something you'd like.
It's something I love. But yeah, if you don't have to review anything else, I wanted to talk about a little bit of Disney Plus news dropped this week. We have a release date for Hawkeye, which is going to be November 24th of this year. And one of the things I want to talk about is, do you think this will be a shorter? So I think we have three options here. Either this will be a shorter series. This will means Book of Boba Fett is not going to come out Christmas of this year like they originally said, or that they will cross over a little bit. And I'm very curious what your thoughts are on that.
I think there's no way that they cross over, because that's just like way too much of crossing the Disney streams for them to want to do it. The only reason I think that might happen is if COVID kind of gave them no choice, no scheduling kind of got botched, and now they're like, well, we gotta run a weekend to one or the other,
Yeah. But I also think it might hit a point, because you look at like all of the Marvel shows coming out and all of the Star Wars shows coming out. Like, I think it's gonna get to a point where it's like maybe there's always like that 1 week or two overlap with everything.
So how many weeks do we have between?
I just counted it while you were talking about the Benedict Society. So the 24th would be the first episode. December 1st would be the second. December 8th would be the third. December 15th would be the fourth. December 22nd would be the fifth. And they told us Christmas 2021. So to me, that either means the show would be coming out December 22nd or December 29th. Or potentially earlier in December. But I think if they're releasing it after December 29th, that's no longer Christmas of this year. That's January of next year. For Book of Boba.
If I had to guess, I would maybe say it's a shorter season, maybe even like a 6, because Loki was short. So even if it's Loki length, that gives them enough time to tell a Hawkeye story.
Yeah.
And if they're just telling like a tight Kate Bishop kind of training origin story, and then
How
kind of
many
launching her
episodes
into
you need?
something else. I don't think they need a ton of stuff. I'm halfway through rereading uh, a bit of the run that I think they're probably going to be basing a lot of the stuff off of, so I'm getting some refresher on that arc. But yeah, I don't think they're going to need a ton of time, but I doubt there'll be crossover. I think it's I think their best bet is like a week break, like they've been trying to do. Like you get a week off for everyone to kind of build up hype,
Yeah.
see the behind the scenes reel, digest what they just watched, and then get ready for the next one. And that
Yeah.
never stops. That's my dream. I don't know if it's a dream or a nightmare, but that seems like the reality we're entering.
I
The
want a
Disney
new
Disney
Marvel.
takeover.
I want a new Disney Plus Marvel show and a new Disney Plus Star Wars show every day. I want to wake up and I'm like, okay, I got 2 episodes of like I don't even know. I want an episode of She-Hulk when I wake up, and then I want an episode of like Finn the Jedi when I wake up, and that's on a
They're,
Monday. And on Tuesday, I want a show about classic Loki, his origin show, and then I want a show about like Shmi Skywalker, like her Shmi Skywalker, the teenage years. Like this is what I want. That's my
they're
dream.
they're very quickly getting us back to the comic book feel where it's like, okay, there's 25 ongoing storylines. Got to make sure I follow all the ones that at least I want to get into. And then, oh, I forgot to follow this one, and there's a crossover. So now I'm 25 issues behind on the one show I thought I didn't have to watch, and it looked bad, but now I kind of want to watch it because I want to understand what's going on in the other show. And don't bring me back to that, Marvel. I turned to the movies because I didn't want to read comic books all the time. So come on, guys.
But don't you want to watch a fictional documentary about Mace Windu's twin sister running a cantina? Come on.
Come on. I mean, there's an I have watched the Ahmed Best hosted reality show
Yeah,
on
that
Disney
looks
Plus.
so bad. I have not watched it at all. I've not watched one single
I
second of
gotta
it.
go for the Ahmed Best support. Cool guy. Nice guy.
Yeah, I'm sure he's nice. I'm sure he's a great guy. That show looks so bad.
He's,
So bad.
he's coming back in Mandalorian as Jar Jar.
Is that your bet?
I'm saying it. It's happening.
Alright. I don't know. I'm just still sad and depressed from finding out Black Panther 2 is filming 2 miles away from where I work, and I have like zero access to that set. And I just drive by it like 3 or 4 times a day, and I'm just like, hello, people.
You have to walk up, be like, "This is Joe from the movie Changeup, or from the from Disney Plus Changeup podcast." Somehow put Disney Plus in there. You know,
This is
movie Changeup.
I'm from the Disney Plus review movie Changeup podcast, so
Yeah, just drop it in there. Make it sound official too. Really long and complicated. As many words as you can put in a title. That's our motto, I guess you can say.
yeah. Disney. If you're looking at our banner, it says "Movie Changeup: The Impossible Movie Remake Show." Disney Plus review.
That's us.
That's what we do. We're changing it up and reviewing. We reviewed like 10 things in 43 minutes. You don't see that. You'll see normal YouTubers, they'll take 43 minutes to review one thing.
Yeah, you'll be an hour and a half, and they're on scene 4 of Loki because they're slowing down every little thing and telling you what's gonna happen next.
Yeah, we used to be like that. And then we decided our show is going to be for the casual person. The person who downloaded Disney Plus to watch Loki. And now they're like, well, I have Disney Plus. What else am I supposed to be watching here?
The Mysterious Benedict Society, the perfect cross.
Turner and
marketing.
Hooch. Specifically, Season 1, Episode 2, A Good Day to Dog Hard.
Or just watch High School Musical, the series, the series.
Or watch The Bad Batch. First, okay, this is my preferred Star Wars viewing order.
Here we go again.
First, you gotta watch Rogue One. If you've never seen Star Wars before, start with Rogue One. It has modern action, modern effects.
There's action in that movie.
Okay, there's scenes, there's moments. The first 40 minutes are whatever. The last 40 minutes or however long are great. Watch that. Then you'll be like, okay, I'm interested to see where the story goes. Then you gotta cut back to 1977. You watch Star Wars A New Hope, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Then you're like, oh, this Darth Vader guy's kind of interesting. I want to see what his origin is about. So you go back. Then you watch Star Wars The Phantom Menace, Star Wars Attack of the Clones, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith.
How do I end this stream?
You see the origin of Darth Vader, and then you're like, oh, I wonder, like, I saw a little bit of the Empire, but now I've seen the Empire form, but what did, like, the peak Empire look like? You watch Solo, A Star Wars Story. And then there you get a little Han Solo origin as well. You see kind of the origin.
Did that one come out yet?
Yeah, fuck off. And then you get the origin of his dice. You immediately see more of Han Solo. You saw the beginning of his journey. Now let's watch the end. You watch Star Wars Episode 7, 8, and 9. There you go. Then you finish that, and you're like, I've seen all of Star Wars. You'd think that, but you are wrong. You immediately watch Star Wars The Clone Wars, including the Clone Wars animated movie. Then you watch Star Wars Rebels. Then you watch The Bad Batch. There you go. That's the viewing order you should watch Star Wars in for a first-time viewer.
I agree with some of that.
You should
I'll
agree
give my
with all
pitch
of
on
that.
another episode.
You should agree with all of that because it's facts and it's right. And we actually have 2 live viewers. I don't even know if they're finding us for the first time. I'm curious what their thoughts are on this. Otherwise, do you have anything else to say about our Disney Plus Weekly Review this week?
Look, if you're gonna watch any Star Wars movies, the only ones you gotta watch are Solo, and then Rise of Skywalker. And then you get the highlights, you get all the story beats. You get everything that matters in Star Wars, really.
You do.
All the other scenes are just pretty much filler.
Pretty much, yeah. Like Luke Skywalker can go suck a fart.
Oh no, we got 2 viewers and they're already gonna start reporting us.
All right. Have a nice Saturday, everyone, or Monday, or Wednesday if you're deciding to watch this on a Wednesday for some reason.
Send your hate mail to @JohnnyDupe.
Yes. If you have any problems with anything either of us have said, go on Twitter and tweet @JDupe2393. That again is @JDupe2393. That's JDOOP2393.
He really sucks,
He does suck.